Today with Rhino Operating System, we're going to talk a little bit about finishing well. We're going to talk about finishing a quarter well, finishing a year well. Just a quick refresher, particularly a kind of an overview for those of you that might be new. What the heck is the Rhino Operating System? Well, it's these 5 components that make up the Rhino Operating System. The who component, this is all about your unique individual DNA, how we're wired and the one-of-a-kind self that you are. The why component then is, once you understand your who, understanding your purpose, kind of what drives you towards your passions in life. And then after understanding that why component, the what component is all about the intersection of your passion and your proficiency. So whether it's personal or professional, it's the things that you do that most kind of live out your unique DNA. From there, it's the how component. This is how do we execute on our goals, setting goals and knocking them down one at a time. And then the when component is all about maximum rhythms of productivity. And today's session is going to be in the who component, the how component, which is really, again, all about goal setting and achieving our goals. So before we jump into our session for today, we're going to do a quick Zoom poll. So what I would love to hear from each of you is, what are the primary challenges that you face when staying motivated to finish your goals? So if there's just one, what is that primary challenge that you face? If there are multiple, what are the primary challenges that you face when you're staying motivated to finish your goals? There is sort of an other one. So if we didn't capture, the one that most resonates with you, you can pick that as well. But what are the things that really prevent you from accomplishing your goals? Is it self-doubt, distractions, lack of clear purpose, procrastination, overwhelm, prioritization issues, perfectionism, or is it just something else? All right, looks like we've got most of you in. Last couple seconds here to fill it out if you haven't already. All right, let me go ahead and share the results with you all. Obviously, this is anonymous as usual. So it looks like the 2 most answered are distractions and overwhelm and prioritization issues. Now, interestingly, somebody, there wasn't one here that wasn't mentioned. So it seems like all of these tend to be issues that we all struggle with, whether it be self-doubt, lack of clear purpose, procrastination, perfectionism. Anybody brave that picked other that wants to come off and say what your other was? Maybe it's something that wasn't listed here, but that you, Sean posted in the chat, Mel's long IT emails. That definitely prevents us all from accomplishing our rocks. There's no doubt about that, for sure. I like to read them before I go to bed. They help me fall asleep. So thank you, Mel, for those emails. Shannon loves them. So, hey, you're getting some love in the chat. Anybody want to come off mute real quick if you answered other? No big deal if you don't. But if you answered other, what is the thing that's preventing you from accomplishing your goals? All right, no problem. We're gonna continue on then and talk about 3 of those obstacles. So these are the 3 obstacles that I found are most common. Johanna chose all of them. That's great. It could, it doesn't have to be multiple choice. It could be a select all kind of thing. These are the 3 obstacles that I found are most common in preventing us from accomplishing our goals. So the first obstacle is procrastination. Now, we've talked about procrastination here at Birgo before. It is a common challenge. Frankly, it's a common challenge for me. We often delay tasks for a number of reasons, but it causes us to miss deadlines and often causes us to have decreased motivation. So if you're struggling with procrastination, you might take a minute to ask yourself, why am I procrastinating? Is it because that rock or that project is not in your desire zone? Did you maybe lose connection with the original purpose or the why behind that goal? Is it because it feels overwhelming? Maybe there's an opportunity to break it down into smaller actionable steps and accomplish those one at a time. But either way, procrastination is a common obstacle for sure. And when we notice ourselves procrastinating, that can actually be a gift to us to allow us to ask the question of what is the underlying issue here? Maybe it was a bad goal to begin with, or maybe the procrastination is an indicator that we need to take a good, long, hard look at ourselves and ask like, hey, am I the right person to be working on this goal? So procrastination is definitely a very common obstacle for us finishing well, accomplishing our goals. And the second obstacle is this. It is perfectionism. So again, this is something I struggle with, but striving for perfectionism can often become a very real barrier to completing a goal. When we set these like unrealistically high standards, it often slows down our progress, and we start to really nitpick on these individual things that we're trying to accomplish because we just want to accomplish it perfectly. And interestingly enough, that can be pretty demotivating for us. You can end up looking at this goal and saying, oh, I've got to get every little piece of this perfect. And that starts to suck the motivation out of the original why behind accomplishing it. And oftentimes, we don't have to get it all perfect to get it done the way that we had originally set out to do it. Oftentimes, we're holding ourselves to a higher standard than we might have set when we originally set the goal. So again, you got to ask yourself the question, what have I actually accomplished? And sure, it might not be perfect. Maybe you've made some progress, but this is the opportunity to really celebrate the gain and not the gap. Because the more you aim for perfect, the more it zaps away our original motivation. And interestingly enough, the less you aim for perfect, the more motivating and the more productive we can often be. So you've heard us say it before. The idea here is to value progress over perfection. And the third obstacle is this, prioritization. So oftentimes we have difficulty prioritizing our rocks or our goals among all of the many things that we have going on. We call that the whirlwind. So oftentimes the whirlwind sucks us in, and we just can't prioritize those big things that we've set out to accomplish, either personally or professionally. So we have to take a step back and say, okay, what could I possibly do to start making progress on this rock? And oftentimes a great way to reprioritize that rock is to break it down into smaller components. Ask yourself the question, what are the small actionable steps that I can be taking right now to make progress? Another thing I often like to do here is fly back up to 30,000 feet and look at the rock in light of my other priorities, or maybe look at the annual goal that you set in light of your other priorities and say hey, has something just shifted here? You know, I'm mid-quarter now, or maybe I'm mid-year now. Has something shifted? Is this no longer a priority for me? Is this no longer a priority for my department, for my organization, for my family? You know, sometimes you just have to come back up to 30,000 feet and ask yourself those questions. So, in summary, 3 common obstacles that I struggle with, that I find others often struggle with, are the obstacle of procrastination, so really just putting things off, the obstacle of perfectionism, so trying to make it absolutely perfect the way that you wanted it to be, and the obstacle of prioritization. So either something new has come in and become the main priority, or maybe the whirlwind has just zapped us into the whirlwind. We're having a hard time prioritizing that rock. But I found those 3 are 3 very common obstacles to finishing well, to accomplishing those tasks. So we're going to talk about what can you do to get past those obstacles. And surprise, surprise, we've got a tool. So today's tool is going to be called the mid-quarter review. So the mid-quarter review is a tool to help you really develop an action plan when you're midway through the quarter or maybe midway through the year. It's a tool you can use anytime you're kind of in the middle of accomplishing a goal to take a step back, revisit your original why, and get things back on track. So this is that tool. Let me walk you through an example of the tool. And then we're going to take maybe just 2-3 minutes. I'm going to walk you through it. And I want you to maybe be thinking about an example of a rock or a goal that you have that's off track. And we're going to just kind of go through it as an example to help you start to think about ways to get that back on track. So here's my example. I chose to do a personal goal here. And I actually chose, many of you know, I set goals every year in my 10 life accounts. So like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, parental, marital. So I set goals in all of those life accounts. The one I chose was physical. So here's one of my physical goals that I set for the year. I wanted to reduce my body fat by 2% while maintaining my BMI and my body weight. So this is a bit of a vulnerable one. I'm going to talk about my weight. But my current status is I've reduced my body fat percentage by 1.8%. But interestingly, my weight has dropped a good bit as I've done that. So my goal was to maintain my weight. As you get older, your body starts to reduce its amount of muscle mass and stops producing as much as it used to. And so I'm trying to get in front of that, right? I want to make sure that I'm not gaining fat, but also not losing muscle. So that was kind of the idea behind this goal. So what have I accomplished? Well, in January of this year, I did Whole30. I increased my protein intake to about 1 gram of protein per pound. I added back in cardio once a week, so started to do a little bit more cardio. Reduced the carbs in my diet. I did blood work and kind of monitored my markers. So those are some things I've done throughout the year to try to get this goal to have some progress. And I just thought it'd be helpful to give myself like a little visualization of this. So I made this very rudimentary chart here. My original goal, my weight and body fat was there. I reduced my body fat percentage, but also reduced my weight. And my goal is now to maintain that body fat percentage, but then increase the weight. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get things to. What's working? Well, I reduced my body fat percentage by almost the full amount. I'm almost there. My blood work markers are improving and looking pretty good. And my energy is increased. So, these are all good things. What's not working though, I had to lose a lot of weight to get my body fat percentage down. That wasn't my goal. I got sick a couple times this year and I got injured a couple times. And those just cause setbacks, when I'm not feeling up for waking up in the morning to do my workouts in the morning. Or, if I have an injury, I have to actually take a week off or take 2 weeks off. And then the last thing, having a hard time getting up early, particularly if I'm working later into the evenings, it just gets a little bit harder to get up early in the morning. So first of all, I want to reconnect to my why behind this goal. So why the heck did I want to kind of manage my body fat and my weight a little bit better? Well, for me, this is all about staying young and being active so that I can play with my kids. My 3 girls are wild. They love to wrestle and fight, and I usually come home to getting punched by one of them. I mean, this is just the way it works in our household. But I also just want to be able to play with my grandkids. And heck, maybe my great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids, who knows? Nothing's off the table. But for me, it's not about, like, how do I look? It's really about I want to be energized so I can play with my kids and play with my grandkids. So now that I've reconnected to my original motivation, what are some few action items that I could take? Well, I could schedule and complete a multi-day fast by the end of the year. I could set my alarm to get me up at 6:50 and then maybe 6:15 and then maybe 6 o'clock, kind of work my way into the earlier wake-ups. I woke up at 5:30 this morning. God only knows why. But, I could really start to kind of creep that forward to give me more time for my morning routine. And I could increase my protein intake to maybe 1.2 grams of protein per pound. So those are some action items that I could take to get this goal back on track. But here's the thing. Here's why I picked this goal. There is no way that I can accomplish what I originally set out to do by the end of the year, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. You can't just force your body to gain weight, gain muscle, lose body fat, right? It just doesn't happen in 6 weeks. So this is an example of progress over perfection. This is a goal where I might have to just take a loss on this goal, but can I celebrate what I have done? And maybe this informs my goal for next year. So it's just important to remember that you gotta reconnect to your why. So yes, I can still accomplish this motivation, this purpose, the reason I originally set out to accomplish this, even if I don't fully get the goal done the way that I had originally hoped for. And I'm a perfectionist. It's going to drive me nuts to not get a goal done that I had originally set out to do. All right, let's go through it with an example for you all. Kim just posted in the chat a fillable PDF of this tool. Go ahead and click on that fillable PDF. We're not going to take a ton of time to do this today. I'm only going to spend about 30 seconds on each section, so less than 3-4 minutes to go through the whole tool. But I at least want to get you started. I want to start building traction towards what you're trying to accomplish with each of your goals and rocks. So I want you to pick a goal, whether it be personal or professional, that you feel like is at risk of getting it done the way you had originally hoped to get it done. So that could be one of your annual goals for this year that's more in your life plan. That could be one of your rocks this quarter that you feel like is off track. Go ahead and write down the original goal and the current status of that goal. Once you've got that down, start to just think about what have you already accomplished. Now, we're about 6 weeks into the quarter. I hope you've done something. If you haven't done anything, you're going to leave this blank. But, write down a couple things that you've done, even if it's just been brainstorming how to accomplish the rock, whatever it is that you've done. Go ahead and write that down in section 2. All right, section 3. This is really where the rubber hits the road. What's working and what's not working? So start to just fill this out in terms of what are the things that are working, as you've looked to kind of originally accomplish the goal you've originally tried to accomplish, and what's not working. What are just the things that you feel like are not working, maybe need to change? I know I'm flying through this. You'll have this tool. You can work through it on your own after the fact. Now, take a second to reconnect with your original motivation for this goal. This, again, you got to get up to 30,000 feet. When I originally set this rock, or I originally set this goal, why did I care about this thing? Why did I care? Just if it's a bullet point or a couple words, doesn't have to be a full sentence here. Write a couple words that were your original motivation behind this goal. And then here we go. We're going to turn it into action. Pick at least one action step that you can do this week to move this thing forward. So section 5, at least one action step that you can do to move this thing forward. All right, so now you have the tool. Anytime you feel like you're off track on a goal personally or professionally, break that tool out, work through it, and just give yourself a chance at getting something done that's in accordance with your original vision for why you originally set that goal. All right, so let's do a quick recap. First of all, the 3 obstacles that we talked about that are the common obstacles for you finishing well and getting those goals done are the obstacle of procrastination, perfectionism, and prioritization. So just remember that those obstacles don't have to prevent us from getting progress towards what we wanted to accomplish. And we've got tools and we've got teamwork to make progress. So enlist accountability, get folks around you, share this with, maybe your boss if you're working through it with them. Here are a couple kind of action items that you can do after today to keep making progress on your goal. The first is create a visual progress tracker. So I think that PDF is a great place to start. By the way, you'll notice that PDF actually includes all 3 of my suggested action items. But you don't have to use that PDF. You can use a piece of paper and a pencil, but start to just come up with some kind of visual way to track your progress. You could even make a little chart, make a little drawing. I find that helps me kind of connect to the right side of my brain and, find some creative solutions for getting those things done. Second is reconnect with your why. And we've talked about this, really, why did you set this goal? Just reconnecting with that might be enough to get it off center. Even if you don't come up with additional action items, even if you do nothing else, just reconnecting with that purpose might be enough to increase that motivation and get you going on the goal. Again, this is a time too where we've got Thanksgiving this week. We've got, holidays coming up, Christmas, everything else. It's easy to have those distractions kind of messing with our head. So this is an opportunity to kind of reconnect with that original purpose to motivate us through to finish well. Last but not least, break it down into smaller tasks. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. If you've got this rock that feels like an elephant, you just have to break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces and start making progress. And again, focus on the gain, not the gap. Focus on what you've accomplished, not how much you still need to do. Just focusing on that huge amount of stuff that needs to be done is likely to really kind of make things challenging. You get in your head and you don't accomplish those goals. So that's it. Here's to finishing strong, finish this quarter strong, finish this year strong. We've got 2 more ROS sessions left in December. I'm excited to do those. We're going to be talking a little bit about kind of, continuing the arc to finish this year well and really start to launch us into next year.